Cryoid channel of light fluid. Welcome back to Infinite Space. After the creepiness of small town America last week in Burroughs, we are heading off into space for far less creepy stuff. And of course, we are carrying on with our training. So let's get right back into it. The first betrayal I experience as I wake are the rays of light stabbing across my face. The second is from my stick, vibrating and chirping birdsong shrilly. It's also firing bead-sized solid hollow windows at my cheek, telling me it is its third attempt at rousing me. Groaning, I grab the insidious device and then slide the complex shut-off mechanism to prove my alertness. You too? Thought you were supposed to be on my side. I chastise the traitorous object, then swing myself out of bed. I'm hit with a wave of cramps as spiders pain at my body. Ah! Breathing deep, I relax my seasoned muscles as I groan from the aches. I may be no stranger to hard workout pains, but last night, on top of the other activities yesterday, has my body protesting. Doing some basic stretches, it slowly eases some of the pain. Maybe I should have checked what the squires were going to do today before going so hard with Eric's. As I slide open the door, my ears catch the sound of water running. Calvex must be awake and showering. Fuck. That wakes me up fully. I might still be conflicted about my night, but does not excuse me from my duties. I hurry downstairs to prepare breakfast. Looking into the kitchen, I realise I didn't ask if he liked what I made yesterday. Double fuck. No time. I clatter around, grab the grains, and then start cooking. I hear the footfalls coming down the stairs as I'm mid-stir. Knowing he's behind me, I blush brightly. After my tantrum yesterday and now a late breakfast, what do I even say? So I say nothing. I keep stirring the pan, my eyes glued to my work. He doesn't say anything either. The silence is only cut by the squelching sound of the porridge being swirled around the pan. He approaches. Maybe he'll reprimand me for insubordination, or tell me he prefers meat for breakfast. Honey. What? Sir? Calvex reaches around me to open a sliding panel. He pulls a jar and then places it on the counter. The fruit was fine, but I usually have honey in my morning meal. Oh, I see, sir. I remember. Anything else I should do? Either he was brushing past last night or he's been considerate. I don't meet his gaze yet as I scoop the meal into a bowl and pick up the jar. There's a sticker across the front that showcases a handsome bear that I recognise, sticking his tongue out cheekily. Oh, night tops. Calvex must have seen me notice it. Funny look at him. He's still hard to read, but his eye is soft. He keeps drones that make it, and he brings me a jar every so often. Looking rather embarrassed, he moves to grab the cylinder flask I saw yesterday. A display light on the side turns on as he chooses the preset option. The flask releases a hiss of vapour that smells dark and bitter as he pulls apart off the top. The portion he has separated reconfigures a handle that coils around his fingers and the top spirals open. Steam rises as Calvex takes a long gulp from it. It has 4 more segments that fit to form an almost seamless single canister. He sighs as he finishes it and then turns back to me. I'm supposed to drink this 5 times a day. It's part of my continued recovery. The flask can be tuned to different flavours, but I have my preferences set already. He shows me the flask. Each segment lights up with a small display on the side containing a list of the contents, flavour profile and time of day to consume. It's not much for a task. It doesn't take much effort. Once a container is empty, I'll need cleaning and refilling daily. He steps over the island counter and shows me on the side where a set of tubes protrudes. He pulls one out and there's the chilled refrigerated air follows. The tube contains a viscous liquid that sloshes slightly as he brings it to eye level. Must be some pretty advanced stuff. Fully clean the inside and refill with one of these. When there are less than 5 canisters in this drawer, we have to ask acquisitions for more. I'll show you that later. He looks at me to make sure I'm paying attention. I meet his gaze fully. It has been a while, but doing this for me, I hope you see it as a start. I nod. He's not good at accepting help, clearly, but maybe this is his way of giving me a peace offering. Yes, sir, I'll make sure to do this without fail. I snap to attention automatically and then yelp from my muscles protesting. Calvex again looks like he's going to say something, but instead takes his seat to the table. Continues to sip his first tonic of the day. I bring the bowl and jar of honey over. Placing them before him, I stand back and wait expectantly. Part of me wants to see him eat something so I can see him appreciate it, but I convince myself it's to make sure I know how he likes his breakfast. He takes a spoonful of honey and drizzles a good amount on top, stirring it until he then takes a mouthful and appears to like it, before clearing his throat and looking embarrassed. I feel awkward with eating with you standing there. Won't you sit or something? Realising I've been leaning forward a bit too eagerly, I shake myself from staring. Oh, right, I need to get to the mess hall. I'll miss the morning meal. Remembering it's later than I intended to get up, I double-check the time. I might not be late if I jog to the hall and eat like a drake. Thought of cardio in my current state makes me want to cry. Have some. Huh? I'm broad in my thoughts as Calvex looks at his bowl and then pushes into the middle of his table. He gestures. Have some, instead of rushing. He wants me to eat with him? Not just with him, but from his bowl too? Isn't that a little too intimate? It looks serious, though. My stomach rumbles its agreement as well, and so I slide into the seat opposite to him. The table spits out a spoon from a drawer on the side. I pick it up apprehensively. Calvex is not even looking. His attention is instead glued to his own stick on the table. He scans through the screens projected from it. His cybernetic eye seems to be controlling it remotely. I decide to take the plunge, scooping from the side of the bowl not touched by Calvex. Without second thought, I take a hearty bite. There's a soft thud from beneath the table. Though I see no further action, I could have sworn it was Calvex's tail wagging once. Maybe it's my imagination. The porridge is good. I can see why Calvex enjoys the honey. It's the sweetest thing I've had in years. I've taken another 3 spoonfuls where I realise I'm scarfing down most of my night's breakfast. It is all the more evident when our utensils clink together. Oh, sorry, I got carried away. Thank you, Calvex. I'll be on my way then. Standing, I turn my head away from him to hide my blush as Calvex continues with his meal. Have a good day, sir. I shall see you in the evening. You too, Corwan. Go show them your best. He still looks at the screen, but I feel bolstered and warm in my face and downstairs. It wasn't romantic or anything, but it's strangely nice to eat like this. After a few breaths in the fresh morning air, I start a much less painful march towards the main building. While I join the throng of squires making their way in, my mind lingers on Calvex. Though I'm starting to understand him a little, I still find it hard to get a read on him. He seems aloof or distant, yet his actions and words are kind. He obviously has some lingering issues beyond the physical. Who could blame him? No one who fights in war comes out unscathed. I can't imagine everything he's seen and dealt with, and what scars he has that I can't see. Does being a squire even give me the right to help him through that? I'm a companion, a servant. Usually I'd be his partner in battle, but he'd made it clear he won't allow it. We're supposed to form this close bond and help each other, but does that allow me to pry into his life, especially if he doesn't want me to? I'm not sure, but I can figure that out as we go. He doesn't seem to hate me, but I'm not sure if he likes me either. Why is this complicated? I mutter to myself, shaking my head as I make my way into the complex. No point in thinking about mushy stuff right now. I don't want to throw myself off before we start today's activity. As the squires separate off to their respective duties, I join the few heading towards our room. I do not spot Eric among the group. Wonder if he's as worn out as I am. Before I can enter, though, a blur of orange collides with my side. I teeter and whim on my arms as I start to fall, but Zarya catches me by the midriff and prevents my fall. Oh there, sorry Corwan, I'm just so pumped. It's my night's time to train us all and... She trails off. She realises how she's holding me, mid-dip and at the waist. We're also gaining a few looks and whistles from those passing us. I'm not one to complain, I'm no stranger to playing with felines. I hook my right leg behind her left one to give me more leverage to pull myself fully upright. Zarya, do you tease everyone by almost sweeping them off their feet? I wink at her before she splutters. No! Oh, stop it, you... No! She pushes me away, but her whiskers twitch as she grumbles many profanities under her breath. Nudging her side with my shoulder, we walk after the others. You don't have to hold back if you want to cuss me out. No need to play polite with a friend. She glances around to see if anyone is still paying attention, then focuses back to me. Her whiskers move so much I'm surprised they haven't launched as tiny rockets by now. You're lucky you're only half the imbecile you appear to be, or I'd give you a real whack. I hold my chest in mock pain for the mildest insult she could muster. Her mouth threatens to turn into a smile as we move into the training room proper. The room's back walls retracted this time, showing a long range. The space has some terrain pieces dotted about. The weapons cache has a variety of firearms. All of them are still nice and safe behind a display, but are oh so tantalising. I perk up immediately at the sight of them. Though we did not have very good weapons to train with as pages, they were decent enough to practice with. Potentially my muscles won't be strained as much as yesterday, which is a blessing. Zarya, however, wrinkles her nose and sniffs towards them. Room must be in the previous session's orientation. Bet Xyrox won't be best pleased. Oh, I can't wait to see him fling everyone around. She grins wildly, and not so sure about her claims on the room layout. More of the usual crowd arrives. Alex glides in alongside Eric's, who hobbles a little but looks cheerful. I give them a wave. They remain with the pack rather than trying to push forwards where we're standing. One wolf shows so much decorum. My shoulder screams a righteous vengeance as Brute forces his way past me into the wall. He leans against it with an air of disinterest, but still maintains a good frontline view of the range. His ears are the only betrayal to his cool indifference as they actively monitor the room's chatter. The wish for something unpleasant to happen to this cocky git rises every moment I spend near him. It's one of the few instances where I'm thankful I'm not covered in fur. If I was, I'd be a puffed up aggression ball right now. Luckily for Brute, my killer intent is interrupted by the heavy footfalls of someone approaching the room. All eyes fixate on the door as the chatter dies. The door opens, and bending almost in half in order to enter, the brilliant ruby-scaled behemoth Xyrox the Morphle enters. His looming figure dominates the space. Even though the room is not small by any means, it feels like he dwarfs it as he strides slowly into the centre. Craning my neck to get a better look, Xyrox seems to have some manner of modifications to his face. Small puffs of electrically charged smoke billow out as he huffs and glares at it all. Standing still, I'm awaiting another Commander Fen-esque rant at us with being insignificant whelps. That is, until his expression breaks out into a huge grin. He jumps on the spot, his thunderous landing rumbling with such intensity I'm surprised the floor doesn't give out. Look at you all! You're all so cute! He bounces again and laughs. I'm not the only one utterly thrown by his exuberant energy. He chuckles as he sees us all stumble back into position. Sorry kiddies, I just got so excited seeing you all. He paces back and forth in front of us, his long tail whipping around with each turn. I'm more than happy to see Brute leap back to avoid getting whacked. Yes, you're all good and eager, I see. They're all a bit scrawny. We need to bulk you up a fair bit, I think. He looks at us all with an honest and very disarming smile. I look at Zarya, but she seems to be just as energised as her knight. It really did match those two together perfectly. The Drake holds his arms wide, giving us all a view of his figure. I don't think there's an ounce of fat on him. He is truly a gargantuan Adonis from some celestial plane. Well, as you're all most assuredly aware, I am Xyrox the Morphle, a Xyrox to most, more to my old brooder, and Xy to my friends. I'm very happy to see you all, and belated congratulations on making it to our esteemed company. He snorts and two rings of clouds puff out. Now, as you can see, I'm more than a perfect specimen of honed athletic prowess. Yes, this is true, no need to gawk. He strikes a few accidental poses that let all of us see his muscles bounce and contract. I think whatever forces align to allow me to stare wantonly at such a man. However, it's not only physical strength that we expect our fledglings to excel in. He points towards the firing range and makes his biceps flex once more with a raised brow. We don't always have the luxury to engage our enemies up close and personal, so we must train our marksmanship just as rigorously. I don't look, but I think I hear Zarya's jaw drop. So it's time to bulk up your eyes and do reps with those trigger fingers. He beams us at this, and I cannot tell if he's joking or being genuine. But first, he jabs a claw up the ceiling for surveying us all. He thrusts it down like a falling cleaver at Eric's. You, Squire Gladius, remind us all of the properties of KAU munitions and our modus operandi. Eric looks a tad confused and shocked at Cyrox's question. Maybe it's because the knight called him by name. I didn't expect the knight to know any squires outside of their own. Well, we engage using projectile-based ammunition and payloads, knight Cyrox, enhanced with light and heavy tech, as is normal. He trails off and looks down, blushing profusely. Cyrox doesn't call attention to it and instead exclaims jovially, Correct! And, Squire Brute, why is this the way we do things? Wouldn't directed energy weapons be better? The wolf, although no longer against the wall, maintains some air of arrogance. He puffs up his chest as he answers. We tried, it didn't work. The fucking tech shrugged off everything we threw at them, like we were nothing to the fucking slag heaps. The spite in his tone is the most emotion I've seen from him, and his hackles rise as he answers the Drake Knight. Cyros carries on, unhindered by the wolf's bristling. That's right, nothing worked. Particles, radiation, vibration, the list goes on and on, more and more experimental. Well, it is true to say our first attempts to fight back were utter failures. They were dark days indeed. He closes his eyes and puffs a small storm cloud of dark smoke above him. The silent reprieve doesn't last long. But, that is when we discover the true path to victory. A step back rather than forward. In a way. It is true that even to this day we've been unable to unravel their advanced shielding that absorbs, deflects, or otherwise ignores conventional weapons. However, we found that old-fashioned projectiles could still penetrate them. It doesn't matter how good a shield you have, you'll still be smushed by a boulder, right? He flexes again with self-congratulation. There is a murmur of laughter through the ranks. Cyrox certainly has all of our attention, and his bubbly energy is quite contagious. As we developed our arsenal with this revelation, we added the light and heavy tech to it to really give us a fighting chance. And so... He points to the range like an eager uncle showing off pictures of his offspring. We approach, maybe a little too eagerly. Everything looks pretty standard, though the terrain has some apparatus protruding. From the soft buzz they had around them, I guess they have solid hollow window capabilities. There's a variety of cover, and the whole space looks like it could be configured to a range of weather and planetary environments to further test us. There are a few different firearms I know from lessons set on the low bench in front of the range. A set of Vipers with their magazines that coil up the arms, as well as a short Snouter with its porcine nose-like tip that earned it its name. I even recognise some of the larger and longer-ranged arsenal. There's a battering ram and a Kestrel, which I've never seen or held, but I pored over their details on stick searches. I do spot a standard wolf pack, which gives me some relief. It looks like the most commonly used burst model. We had trained with it back on Foro. Even if the ones we used were old, the pages and trainers maintained them most diligently, so it lasted. I don't feel as out of my depth in this area. Perhaps I may even make up for yesterday. I just need to get to the wolf pack before anyone else. Feeling other eyes on it, I assume they're having similar thoughts to myself. Fuck, how will Cyrox even do this? My eyes flick to him as he observes us all stare at the firearms like they're Cosmo balls in a confection dispenser. His purple eyes meet mine for a brief moment and then he winks. Okay, my clutchlings. Back, you savage beasts. At least you get a chance to show us what you're made of. Cyrox nudges us all away from them. Truth be told, I have half a mind to linger as his frame comes close. His navel is at my eye level. How tall is this man? I fall back into line with the rest. He points past the lines of weapons to the range itself. A few of you may have seen something like this before, but oh boy, this range is a different beast entirely. He exaggeratedly smacks the side of the wall. The room shakes. Planets from across the galaxy have been painstakingly scanned and catalogued to be recreated for our use. Temperature, visibility, atmospheric composition, gravitational levels, and loads more that I forgot or didn't understand. He beams proudly. I'm certain this scaled knight is truly a unique case in many areas. His jovial nature is a welcome change. As opposed to Fenn's strict and severe attitude, Cyrox gives off this positive, vibrant feeling. He's uplifting, heroic, and very much the poster boy for what the KAU is all about. I can see why he's so often the one talking at planetary visitations and at rallies, rather than the actual commander. He uses approachability and kindness, alongside obvious strength and duty. Plus, that body. I'd never thought myself as a shallow man, but there's something about his sculpted scales that made me want to do some heavy lifting, so to speak. Today, however, we'll just be using the baseline setting. Some stationary targets, some moving. Got a variety to give you all a chance to get to grips with the toys. Approaching the line, he gestures at the firearms lineup. All of these are variable units, capable of switching between light and heavy shots. These are also the most common type you all will deal with as cavalry units. He picks up the Snouter. His large build dwarfs the barrel and makes it look very much like a toy. Once you get more acquainted and accustomed to these, we'll see where you excel. Then you just gotta hone these skills to a sharp point and raise up areas where you falter. Know which type of shot to take, which weapon best suits your talents and when to change it up and try a new weapon, be it projectile or martial, are all skills you'll have to learn. His smile disappears as he continues. His eyes scan us to make sure we are very clear on what he says next. As much as I hate to say it, actual combat experience is how you will truly learn the quick thinking needed to gauge a situation and make the right choices to stay alive. But his smile immediately shines forth again as he places the weapon down and shuffles the side. We have no intention of sending you all out until you're trained up, so how about we give it a go? Let's see how you do. You'll have plenty of time in these sessions to try each firearm and see how each feels when firing both types. Remember your training. Try to pin down your target with light shots and a single or a burst of heavy will finish the job. The targets are programmed with the same carapace density we calculate the playcast. You can get a feel for how much each bugger needs to go down. He claps his giant clawed hands together and we jolt again. The man's desire to keep our hearts racing must be a sadistic streak. Alright, let's have a figure up. Three there, Rarik, Stringer and Luge. Step up and have a go. He gestures to the front row. I jolt as I'm included in the selection and I pause a bit before moving. Luckily the other two are just as surprised. I get to the line at first and lay hands on the wolf pack. The model is newer by a few years, but the shape and heft is familiar. I'm glad. This is something I have at least some degree of confidence in. I hold it sideways to examine and see the compactor magazine slotted in securely. The soft glow of light shown it is active. We do not have these on Foro, but I know their function. Rounds were compacted with light tech for greater capacity and to invert the mass so as not to weigh down the user. It will need to be reloaded often. The desire to see exactly how long I could fire continuously is highly tempting. The grip feels firm on my hands. After sliding my stick against the material, it shifts to the perfect calibration for me. The other two are just their chosen arms as well. The taller feline, Rarix, chooses the Vipers, moving the coiling parts of his arms as his tail twitches eagerly. The other squire, Luge, picks up the Kestrel. The longer scope looks large in the Pinnipedian's grip as he squats to aim. Sliding my hands into place, I quickly flick between the modes with my thumb to test. The Wolfpack glows and hums as it shifts from yellow to purple. I like the martial weapons. The firearms themselves are not impacted by the changes in energy. Instead, it's the projectiles fired from them. The recoil of the heavy ammo is what to watch for. Before we start all the fun, let's have a quiz. Once again, Cyrox breaks any sense of tension that's building with his genuine excitement and relaxed nature. Why do we not use automated or intelligent systems to fire at the plague? Why do we put ourselves in harm's way? Go on, Squire Horonos. Alex stands up straight and answers immediately. The plague's defences predict most AI attack patterns and either resist or avoid the barrage entirely. Let's assume they have much more advanced AI than ourselves. They're able to predict, adapt and outmaneuver us. Cyrox beams and bobs his head. Full marks, correct. No matter how advanced we push, the plague adapted faster than we've ever been able to develop countermeasures. However, unlike AI, we mere mortals do not choose perfect firing patterns, nor shoot predictably every time. We found strength in our inefficiency and fallibility. He grins. I feel strangely calm and loose. It's odd to think that logic and perfect programming weren't what led us being able to truly fight back. It was the personal touch, the fighting spirit, being able to turn failures into success. Feels oddly zen. We'll start on level playing field to get used to the way they move, or are the best we can simulate. Ready? Aim! Begin! Getting back into position as he finishes, I lift the wolf pack up, settle the stock against my shoulder, then line up the sights. As the range activates, the terrain slides up and down, rearranging the pieces into a new configuration. Then they come. The hairs on the back of my neck rise up as I see the simulated plague forces materialize. Their armour is dark and iridescent, flickering as they shift and weave to make harder targets. So real. I can almost smell the scent of scorched earth and hear screams as they slink and scuttle forward. I take a breath, focusing on the thinner, taller one, Snouter. Fast frontliners for engaging. They shriek when they have found harvestable material. I make a small movement to click into light mode. One breath, and I squeeze the trigger. A stream of bullets pulse out. The Snouter shifts as the first few glance off its carapace. It's not clean, the impact throws it off the approach. I barely hear the other two engaging. The Snouter scuttles behind cover to avoid my shots. Immediately shift focus to a lumberjack I see further back, maneuvering slowly from behind a wall. Another few bursts of light and it's hunkering down. There's no way I'll be stopped without many heavy hits, but keeping it on the defensive is my goal. Even before I see it, I'm shifting my aim back toward the front, where the Snouter was trying to move out of its hiding place. I switch the toggle on the wolfpack to heavy and send a single burst at it. I tense for the recoil. I can't help but wince as my shoulder jerks from it, but I keep my grip on the firearm. The Snouter is back to hiding. Lowering my gaze from the sight, I take a quick survey of the battlefield. The others are focusing on the ones nearest to them. From the right I hear grunts as Luge takes shot after heavy shot, not landing any. His target is leaping between them, getting ever closer. I flick back to light and send a fast series of bursts in an upward arc. The plague pivots and spirals in an effort to avoid the stream, but it can't escape them all. The final few bursts land cleanly. Before it can even twist to land behind cover, the headpiece explodes as Luge finally lands a killing blow. I barely register a squeak of happiness in the sheer behind us. I'm sweeping my sights back to my own foe. The Snouter has made ground, but it's run out of cover to hide behind. The lumberjack in the back is being harried by the spiral spread of the vipers from Rerix to my left. Good, I can finish this. The Snouter shifts left then right, in feints and counter-feints. I fire a few rounds intending to miss as it weaves and responds. Another burst, another feint. A deadly dance as it gains ground bit by bit. I'm cool, breathing long and slow breaths between shots. The light shots barely jostle the firearm, allowing precision. There's almost no travel time from the moment my finger squeezes to impact. I hit the Snouter square in the chest as it shifts back into my path. Raises its appendages in an attempt to ward off the barrage. I keep it pinned with one more burst, for, with a flick and a brace, I fire off 3 heavy shots. Chest, head, chest. The first knocks it off guard. The headshot is dodged. The second body shot lands. The Snouter falls. There's no thrill of accomplishment, just the next target. The lumberjack's the last of the wave. It stepped up its game, moving around or over cover in rapid scuttling bursts. Whilst Rarix is managing to hit it more, the lumberjack ignores the peppering. Its carapace is harder and thicker. I hear Luge's Kestrel go off to my right with another heavy shot. The lumberjack has ample time to shift away. It's gaining ground. We need to halt it, and fast. Taking aim once more, I fire a burst at its legs. It ignores the shots at first. When I start hitting the knee joint, it backs up as it looks for cover. The Viper shots become heavy. They start to strike the knees as well, buckling and breaking one completely as the lumberjack lurches to rebalance. Another crack to my right. The upper shell smashes from the sniper's shot, followed with a full burst of heavy. My body screams from the recoil as bullets leave the barrel. Just like that, the body is ruptured and crumples to the ground. I exhale deeply as I wait in the silence to see if there are any more. Instead, we get whoops and applause from our audience. Placing the wolf pack back on its mount, I then step back with my team. Cyrox bounds towards us and then scoops us all into his gargantuan arms. Brilliant! Fantastic! That's the way, yes sirree! Despite our struggling, the hulking drake of a man still holds us close. I admit I don't mind it. First time feeling a scaled body, I do take note of how it feels. Pleasant. Luckily he puts us down before my mind and hands deign to wander. He beams proudly at all three of us. Exceptional work taking all of them down before they got into striking range. They said it might have been lowered, but it still was impressive to see all targets downed. He looks back over the range as the orientation is already resetting and manoeuvring back into the default configuration. Oh, Rarix. Good covering fire, you hit more often than not. But as you saw, if they can withstand light, then I'll just shrug it off. Don't be afraid to weave in heavy. I'll keep them on their toes. He points his huge arms out and forms a faux gun with his fingers. Then makes circling motions, imitating aiming with a few exaggerations to emphasize bigger shots. It's hard to read, offering a wide spread is the Viper's strong point. Lean into that next time. Rarix looks a little embarrassed, but nods with determination. Cyrox moves on to Luge. I'm impressed you handle the kickback really well. I've not seen many who can take the back-to-back heavy Kestrel shots. As you saw, they're easy to predict. Your aim started to suffer a bit. The Drake moves behind him. Cyrox takes Luge's right arm and then mimics holding the longer barrel. Together he makes small movements left and right to adjust his aim as he continues. Mixing light shots are funnels where you can get a clean shot. If they can predict what's going on, they'll still be wary of any sniper fire. He moves away from Luge, keeps repeating the motions a few times. Coming around to stand in front of me, he puts his hands on hips. I stand ready for his verdict, thinking about the simulation over and over again to try and figure out what could have done better. Squire Stringer, I have to say, superb! Really great decision making and shot choices. Reading when to push, when to alter targets, and to assist others. You had exceptional situational awareness. Praise doesn't register at first. I found myself waiting for the other foot to fall and for him to ring me out. You did choose the safer weapons. I will of course have to see how you handle other types. However, I think you have a great foundation. We can build on that. If this was a real battle, you likely would have saved a few lives. Great work. I'm stunned. I wasn't expecting anything that positive. I bow awkwardly before I shuffle back into the row with the others. My cheeks burn from the comments and I feel the eyes on me. A slight tickle on my ankle jerks me out of my reprieve. A white tail coils around my left leg. I followed up to find Alex staring at me intensely for a beat while giving me a thumbs up. Well done. I agree, you did wonderfully. He whispers and the heat returns in full force to my face. Yeah, thanks. I just did as I was trained, I guess. Lucky you really got the wolf pack. Don't know if I could have done better with something else, as he said. I stammer. Feels good not to fail, but still makes my stomach twist nervously when others focus on me. I try not to grin too much as we turn back to the front. Okay, the rest of you learn as we go. Spot others are doing well. Listen to feedback. Raise others up and improve continuously. Agreed? Yes, sir. Let's get Horus, Cerberus and Feeder up for the next round. Alex nods at me again and then walks up. Brute and the Reptilian Squire do so as well. Theodore reaches the wolf pack for a growl from Brute makes them snatch their arm back. I'll get a chance to use all the types in the end, so no need to fight. Take the Snouter, Theodore. They do. Alex picks up the Kestrel and then takes point. Wow, even looks effortless while aiming down the sights. His whiskers point forward as he uses the scope to take a peek around the range, as if he's preemptively seeking out a target. Brute takes his time preparing. He alters the size adjustments manually, seemingly unsatisfied with what the weapon thinks is the appropriate measurements. Eventually he grunts and takes aim. Looks larger than this should for his frame, but he seems comfortable. And I'm no longer at the firing line. I can see how Cyrox uses his stick to start the program. The terrain orientation, though different, provides similar cover in open areas. Ah, die, you fucks! To say Brute explodes as it starts is an understatement. He's leaning over the barrier and practically falling over it and into the range. His shots are wild, zigzagging over the field from target to target with massive variance between types. I'd love to say he was awful, but honestly his erratic nature throws the advancing line off significantly. It's only been a few seconds, but most have slipped behind cover. Show yourselves, cowards! He's practically frothing at the mouth as he unloads a barrage of heavy rounds into a scout's hiding spot. The material breaks apart from the abuse. The skulking plague gets peppered as it flees for more cover. Reacts to even the slightest movement with instant aggression, laying down more shots. Alex's mouth is downturned in concentration, then it curls into a grin as he spots a driller plague starting to lumber out of cover. With one shot it stumbles, another and it's tipping over. A rapid deluge of shots from Brute finishes it off. Whether or not Alex is annoyed, he doesn't show it. He just keeps taking his shots, waiting for his moment to either distract or finish off his target. Phaedra isn't taking many shots and is missing with any they try. I think Brute is throwing them off. So much so they do not see the ringers sneaking up along the outer wall. It's about to call out a warning, I catch Cyrox striding towards the line just as the ringer springs at Phaedra. Okay, Phaedra, you died. Weapons down. He swipes his stick towards the simulated plague, who evaporates as the simulation resets. The reptilian looks shaken. Brute still clutches the wolf pack tightly as he stares into the range. Well, we aren't done if I murder them all yet. Go off, Squire Cerberus. One of you fellows is about to be tagged. Simulation over. Understand? I'm not sure if Brute does, as he pants heavily and just stares into the range. The Drake turns to address Phaedra instead. Try to keep your eyes surveying multiple parts of the battlefield, not just what your allies are concentrating on. The Snouter has more range than you think. Next time we'll try some tight spread patterns that work well. Okay? His voice is level. Still buoyant, but he lowers his tone when addressing them. Phaedra is still shaking. They nod a few times before creeping back into line. Cyrox turns to Alex next, who stands calmly for assessment. Now, Hronos, you make good choices, even in chaotic situations, but you could take some risky shots. Perfect shot rarely exists, and waiting for a good lose you the advantage. You did make each shot count, yes, but then you'll be predictable. Alex takes in the feedback stoically, but I can tell from his swishing tail that he's annoyed. He joins the rest of us as Cyrox turns to Brute, who's finally stopped huffing. Brute turns to face the larger man, looking up at him as his muscles still twitches angrily. Well now, you're certainly enough to throw the element of unpredictability into the mix. Don't think anyone can doubt that. There's no idea what's hitting them, when, or what type. It opened an advantage for you and your allies to pick them off. However... He looks back at the group for a moment before continuing. Be mindful of being too disruptive. Your companions can throw off team synergy. As you all learn how one another operates, and just you'll get better. That being said, don't lose yourself in the fight, Squire. Your duty is just as much about keeping yourself and others safe as it is defeating the plague. Brute just curtly nods and then turns back into the group. His glare is enough that no one dares stop him from returning to his position on the wall. Although his stance is far less aloof and more twitchy with anger. Cyrox calls up more to shoot. The quality of competence varies more than I thought it would. Many miss or fail at defeating all of the targets. Some work very well together. There's always a collective whooping when a wave is thoroughly squashed. Eventually, Zara and Eryx get called up, alongside a stout Hyenadine. While Eryx looks pumped as he approaches the line, Zara could not appear more the opposite. Her ears are down and she has none of her usual bubbly energy. Impressed that Eryx hefts up the battering ram. No one has had much luck with it. The recoil threw a Squire on his ass early on, and the others either avoided it or done poorly with it afterwards. Zara lets her remaining companion choose first, then gingerly takes up the Vipers. Even if she takes her stance and levels the firearm, she looks unhappy. All eyes turn to the range as the session begins. It starts off normally. The obstacles rise and the simulated plague appear, creeping around the terrain. A few streams of light shots tear across the range. Both Zara and the third I hadn't caught the name of engage, neither one hitting or deterring them much. Fixated on Eryx, was widening his stance as he lines up his own shot, the gun aglow in yellow light. With a deep bellow, a sunlight projectile flies forth from the ram, then collides with the plague that is crawling towards Zarya. It's hit squarely and falls on its back. Before it can right itself, a heavy shot that looks like a ball of pitch obliterates it. I'm impressed. It's slow, the battering ram certainly makes quick work if it finds its target. Eryx has shown all of us that now. Even as sweat drips down his face from the exertion. The recoil and the weight of it is no joke. Eryx continues to follow up the good shots from their third. Zarya is struggling. The shots often go wide or they hit, but she does not follow up with heavy blows to finish the job. You can see her mouth turn into a snarl as she jams each Viper forward, in more of a punching notion than an aimed shot. Finding some comfortability in this style, she continues despite her aim not particularly improving. The session ends with a success, most of Eryx taking advantage of any distraction, and the fact that the ram could destroy even the plague's cover. He shakes as he puts it down and is drenched. We get them all around a cheers as Cyrox swoops in for the evaluation. That's what I like to see, Squire Rondus. Taking the ram by the horns, eh? I can't fault your stance. You have a solid base now to take the shock of the beast's kickback. I think your way is a strain it has, though. This was a short skirmish overall, and you exerted yourself. Practice holding that stance with a similar weight to get used to long drawn-out periods where you'll need to be ready. Yes, sir. Despite the panting, Eric smiles and files back in. Cyrox moves on to give his feedback to the other shooter, who also scampers back before he turns to Zarya. He puts his hands on his hips as he looks at his own squire. Well, I did say to be erratic in your firing, but you need to work on your stance. Thrusting isn't as effective. The Vipers have good coverage. Well, work on your grip and how to switch it up. Areas to improve, my squire. Plenty of gains to gain. Remember that even when flustered, we can cover for and help each other. That's all, Zarya. Back in line. Alright, next we have... Zarya practically slumps into the group, her tail tightly wrapped around her right leg. It's so unlike her. She mills around the back trying to get to catch her eyes as the next row starts their turn. She cheered me up yesterday. I would like to do the same, but she'll have to wait for the right moment. For now, I watch the remainder of the practice. After the final round is done and feedback is given, Cyrox stands before us all beaming like a proud uncle. I do think we have some great talent here. Plenty of strengths to polish and weaknesses to account for, and plenty of time to find what you can excel at. I'm proud of you all. He flashes us all a toothy grin, and everyone puffs their chests out in response. Great. This Drake is going to turn us all into his praise-craving harem if this keeps up. Not that my traitorous chest seems to mind as it follows suit. That being said, I feel we could all do with a nice run to shake up the strain of all that target practice. We'll only do a few laps around the site, nothing too long. Alright, squires, follow me! Before we all have much time to process the actual distance, the massive behemoth was toting is not much. He's jogging out of the door. We scramble to not lose too much ground. He takes us out onto one of the many looping paths that encircle the complex. Though I suspect Cyrox is metering his pace for us all, he's still going at a speed that naturally starts to separate us into packs based on athleticism. Having not had much time to explore yet, I do take the chance to look around and end up at a pace that keeps me towards the back. There's little to no chance I can compete in this arena against others. Squires and knights come in all shapes and sizes. There'll be those naturally more suited for long distance running. Though I did see some feline squires take off their Cyrox early on, the length of the run seems to have dawned on them with some regret. A few pant and slow from their initial sprint to almost a crawl. As I look around the complex, I notice a few of the lessons going on. A bunch of squires are using some rapid excavation tools and fortification kits to build trenches for cover. Some archer squires are using long-range artillery mortars. Can't even spot their aiming at. Their coordination seems on point as they appear pleased with their results. Apart from others dueling or engaging in group skirmishes, also those who are off duty. They're walking about the grounds leisurely or eating together on the lawns. Seeing these different activities occurring so close to one another conjures this strangely intense yet relaxed feeling. You did really well back there, Corwan. I'm shaken with my observations by Eric's lumbering alongside me to the right. I hadn't even noticed we'd ended up in the same pack. From his sweat-matted fur and panting, I can see he's not enjoying this activity. Oh, thanks. Looking sidelong, I gave him a grin as I slowed slightly to match pace. He did amazing too. You saw all the others. They could barely lift the ram and you fought the entire wave with it. Eric's pants and pats his belly for immediately regretting the decision and huffing. Oh, well, I guess this has its uses. Honestly, I'm not that keen on the ram. Just is the only thing similar to what my pal let me practice with. I feel there's more to the story. I was about to open my mouth to ask, an orange blur bumped into my other side. At least you didn't put on a sorry display in front of your knight. Why'd it have to be firearms of all things? Cyrox could have done sparring or endurance or anything else. I wouldn't have made such a kit-like effort. Her ears fall against her head. She easily keeps pace with us. I wasn't expecting her to be back with us, given her obvious joy for physical activities. I side bump her back to get her attention. You didn't do that badly. Put on enough fire the others managed to pin the blade down. We'll all appreciate that in a real shootout. I nearly winced at my poor attempt to alleviate her feelings. She did much better yesterday. Luckily, Eric's huffs to my rescue. Yeah, I didn't think you were bad. At least you know when to use what mode. There were plenty of squires just trying to hit him and not thinking about taking him down. The bear gives an open-mouthed grin, panting. His ears waggle with each stride. Zarya, however, is just staring at his cybernetic paws as we jog. She flexes them, deep in thought. I just feel like it's hard to fire with these. Doc said there isn't, but it feels there's a delay. Oh, so frustrating. But rather punch a plague straight in their dumb faces. To punctuate her point, she jabs her fists forward. My eyes run over her arms. They look amazing. No attempt was made to cover them up to match them to her body. She seems to show them off proudly. I know very little about body augments and replacements. Seeing hers, I cannot help but think of Calbeck's. If you don't mind, Zarya, can I ask what happened? She glances my way, and for a moment I feel like I've overstepped. Then she just chuckles in an almost purr-like way. No one usually asks. Things a touchy subject. Really is just a dumb kitten choice. My fault, born of stubbornness. She looks almost wistful, remembering a scene we can't see. I was testing out some new tech. My clan is big into close combat fighting, using what evolution gave us. Generations of proud practitioners. Not any of that matters when it came to the plague. Her voice gets quieter. Eric's and I jog closer to keep within hearing distance. We all had to adapt and overcome. My clan was no different. But we still felt our way of fighting could and should be viable. So all many took up the weapons found to work on the plague, my clan turned to working on their own tech. She flexes her arms and claws. Even I can admire the quality of the craftsmanship. So they developed gauntlets that could use light and heavy tech, just like other weapons do. They're the first operational models, complete after many, many years of work. My father was so proud when the clan heads asked me to demonstrate them. I mean, I was excited too, eager, maybe a little too much. I showed them off and the things worked, reduced the dummies to dust. I pushed harder. They of course warned me not to overdo it, felt like we'd finally fight back the way we used to and proudly. Her ears flick in irritation. So I kept at it, punching harder, pushing more energy than they could take, especially the gravitational exertion that heavy puts on them. And they cracked. I can still remember the sound so clearly before they ruptured, like a horrific tearing grating. I still don't know if it was the metal or my bones making the sound. She sighs. When she looks up, she flashes us a trademark grin. She flexes her arms again, they pulse briefly with energy. So yes, my own fault, but I accept that. These are even more advanced than the gauntlets. They've learnt a lot and made me these. Stronger, more durable, and hit harder. I can't complain. Still, small movements, fine. Delicate work, I'm still not great at it. The more I try to concentrate on it, the more I feel like they react slower. We fall into silence as we keep jogging. The sounds of footfalls punctuate the moment I digest what she said. It's Eric who breaks the reprieve. Well, I don't know much about the tech you have, but I could take a look. I promise I won't break anything, and I can assure you I'll give them the respect and care that they and you deserve. He stumbles over the offer, but it's truly kind, and I feel the same. Yeah, I agree. We can look at them. There isn't a delay, I don't know. We can always take up some extra micro-engineering training to get used to handling teeny tiny motions. Would be good for your boundless energy anyway. I wink at her. She scowls back and laughs. I swear I'll punch you, Corwan. You best hope I don't accidentally go full throttle and pulp you. Sorry, I wouldn't, of course. She folds her ears down after a threat, but I laugh and wave it off. Don't worry about that. I'm looking on the smashing part where I'd be happy to train sometime. Zuri immediately perks up and returns to her bouncy self. I swear she should have whiplash by now. Oh, I'm happy to. Thanks, both of you. Feel so much better now. I'm going to try to catch up with Sarox and apologise. See you later. She takes off rapidly, putting distance between us. The group ahead yelps out as she surges past them, and then they boggle in disbelief. She really is a great person, isn't she? I don't think I'd be able to cover her from that if I lost my arms. I keep watching Zarya tear away until she disappears out of sight around the building. She's got some fire for sure. That being said, I don't want her to outdo us just yet. Want to pick up the pace? Eris gives me a pained expression but nods. Not either of us hold any expectations on catching up, but I feel motivated to push harder after our short exchange. If I keel over, go on without me. No chance on a new collapse on the battlefield. We're all making it home today, by which I mean a cold shower after this. That seems to give him some extra incentive. With our prize in mind, we pick up the pace. By the time we reached the end of the loop around the building, we had pushed ourselves to just behind the middle of the packs. I felt proud that my body was much less impressed. From the late night prior and the long run, my fumes are running on fumes. Eric's is faring just as poorly with his paws on his knees as he takes slow gulps of air. I pat his back consolingly, feeling the sweat-matted fur. I feel bad I'd pushed it so hard in the end. A few less exhausted squires pass us on the route to the showers, and faintly hear the siren call of the soothing water. You okay, Eric's? Then you can make it a bit further. We're so close. If you're offering to carry me, I won't say no. He's almost pleading. I had the strength to do so, I may well have offered. Instead, I take his clammy paw and then pull him into the shower room. The steam spills forth in the cubicles invitingly. We both start peeling off our gear. Before we get far, I pick up on a snarl coming from the other side of the room. I told you I have no quarrel with you, Brute. There are far more pressing concerns I have than to protect that fragile ego of yours. Listen, you prick, I know you that tripped me. Or I went tail over arse in that shrub. I saw your spotted backside sprinting away. I think there's a spotted fuck, so it must have been you. Leaning around the lockers, I can see Alex and Brute glaring at each other, mere whiskers apart. Brute tackles her up, and Alex looks less than impressed. His nose twitches and he maintains his cool demeanour. Get back, Brute, or I swear you will end up on your back again. This time I'm more than happy to take claim. There's no reason I would have sabotaged you. I was making perfectly good time. Brute grabs Alex in the chest. They both must have finished their showers already from the nearby towels. Their fur is still mildly damp. You wanted to show me up. You think I don't know how your kind swans about, jilled up the ears and raised any form of competition? You saw me ahead of you, a lowly wolf, and you snapped, didn't you? He punctuates his question with 2 more jabs. His jaw is so close to Alex's throat I swear he's about to bite his jugular out. Get the fuck away from me, dog. Faster than the blink, Alex is slamming Brute against the wall. His paws are wrapped around Brute's neck as he growls at him, fully baring his fangs. It's a shock, given how Alex usually holds himself. You think you have us all figured out? Well, you don't, you arrogant mongrel. Touch me again, I'll hollow out your chest with my own claws and take great pleasure in it. Brute kicks out his knees, hitting Alex's abdomen. The left foot still hovers him firm by the neck. Brute's jaws gnash futilely. Before things escalate further, I hurry over and then grab Alex's arm. Hey, Alex, it's okay. He got the message. Let him go. Alex turns his face to me sharply and snaps his jaws at me, only missing me by an inch as I pull my face out of the way. Before I can say anything, he recognises me and immediately his expression dissolves into horror and shame. Corwan, I'm sorry, I seem to realise what he's doing. Alex lets go of Brute. Brute stumps to the floor, holding his throat and coughing. You're insane, you bloody psycho. I give him a look to silently tell him to shut the fuck up. And afterward I turn back to Alex, who's looking down between Brute and his own paws. Alex, He gives me another look of shame and anguish before he grabs his stuff and then bolts out of the room. I see Eric peek his head after him and then turn to Brute and I with a quizzical expression. What happened? Brute, he just tripped. I glance down the wolf who stops massaging his neck when Eric's appears. Then he whips his head towards me as I lie. I offer him a hand to help him get up. He stares at me for a long moment, eyes boring into mine. It's to the point I think about retracting my hand lest it get bit off, but eventually takes it and leaves himself to his feet. Yeah, I just slipped. He yanks me towards him. My body is practically flush with his for a moment. I should be more careful. He releases me, leaving his threat hanging in the air as he calmly dresses and then exits. Eric tilts his head, looking puzzled, but I just shake my head in return. Not worth it. I said I need that water now more than ever. Shrugging, he then ambles after me into the steamy fog. We spend the remainder of the day going over planetary defences, protocols, launching sites, and the satellite cities. Orbiting above, the cities create a matrix with their orbiting arrays. Together, they're designed to make OSID as an appealing target as possible, while ensuring fast deployment. Tired as I am, I manage to avoid nodding off. A few others succumb and then get a sharp wake-up call from the attending lecturer from the Castle Division. Being told you're all heading up to Belvos tomorrow for training immediately makes me perk up and pay attention. Zero-gravity training orientation is something I've been keenly looking forward to. The instructors on Foro did their best, but their attempt to simulate anything was pitiable. Understandable given the moon's situation. They cannot very well isolate and turn off sections of the complex just for our benefit, so we had to make do with reduced gravity and harnesses. It was a far cry from actual freedom and the practical awareness we would gain, not to mention learning basic coordination and omnidirectional tactics. The instructor also tells us we'll be staying in the city afterwards. We allowed some free time to tour it, pending any demerits. A palpable buzz fills the room. The instructor has to clear their throat more than a few times to bring us back to attentiveness. By the time we are finding out, many are already discussing what they want to do. The orbiting cities were designed with duty in mind first and foremost, with labs for experiments as well as workshops for development. There also were semi-permanent residences. On top of that, there are shops, restaurants and other forms of entertainment. There'll be plenty to take in. I join the throng of excited squires talking, making note of known locales and rumoured spots to visit. Arriving back at the house, my mood could not be more different than yesterday's. I can't wait to tell Calbex about my day. I hope to show him that, at least in some areas, I can shine. Walking through the kitchen, he doesn't appear to be back yet. Don't hear any movement from the study or upstairs either. I deflate a little. I was after some praise and affirmation from my knights, if I'm honest with myself. Having to wait makes me realise how needy that might be. However, Calbex not being back yet provides me with exactly what I want, being able to get the household ready and welcoming for his return. That would mean a meal, to give the areas a clean and anything else I can get done before he gets in. I chastise myself for not asking for a copy of Calbex's own schedule so I could have planned better. Page move there, Corwan. I bound up the stairs, then chuck off my gear as fast as I can, bundle it up for cleaning with some other strewn garments. Finding some loose-fitting clothes, I pull them on and then carry the load out. I paused by Calbex's room. Whilst cleaning one's night's clothes was an expectation, I had not been shown his room yet. I teeter on the idea of having a peek and maybe grabbing any of Calbex's laundry as well. Deciding I should wait for permission, just in case, I carry on downstairs to the little room next to the kitchen and set the clothes to wash. Surveying the battlefield that was to be the kitchen, I take stock. In terms of waste, there is not much. Apart from the bowl from breakfast, there isn't anything to wash. The counters, however, are not spotless. There is clutter here and there, not to mention the long dining table covered in boxes. Plenty to get on with. However, foremost is dinner. I open the cabinets and units to see what I have to work with. Finding the spice storage, I spend a long time opening and smelling each one. There's a wide variety, some spicy, a few citrusy, most of them are herbal or floral. The few almost empty ones have very earthy and deep notes. I'm aware of the heightened sense of smell lupines have to a degree. Seeing this many flavourings, I imagine Calbex enjoys the aroma of a meal just as much as the taste. Most of them I've never heard of before. Wonder if Calbex has cultivated this bounty from across the galaxy. Maybe each planet he had visited now exists in small jars of aromatic memories. It's a somewhat romantic idea. That, or he just got them from a distributor in bulk. I should stop daydreaming about possible depths and secret brooding nostalgia my night may or may not have. Shaking myself from my fantasy, I pull out my stick and look up some recipes that use the emptiest jars and other ingredients I feel confident handling. Finding a simple yet tasty-looking one-pot meal, I get started. In the page's dorm, we'd all cook together and share the tasks. Maros always hated chopping pungent vegetables. He'd wrinkle his nose and twitch his whiskers for pleading with me to cut them for him. Chuckling at the memory, I slice up some brown and orange bulbs, and some vibrantly blue tubers. The colours look odd but alluring, and they smell of sun-baked earth. I admire the meat as I prepare it. The marbling is almost mesmerising. As I throw the chunks into the heated pot to brown, the smell immediately makes my stomach flip with eager anticipation. After adding the veg, I added a glug of fizzing alcohol the recipe called for deglazing. Finally, in goes stock and spices, and I put the lid on to simmer. The range's parts fit to it, heating it from the sides as well as the bottom. It looks like the stovetop is hugging the pot. I don't blame it. The smell is alluring, if I say so myself. With the meal cooking away, I set to the cleaning. The home has a composter outside, which I deposit the vegetable scraps into, then leave the back doors ajar to let some air in. It takes me some time to find the cleaning equipment. At first I have to puzzle over the tools and different products. Most of them are rudimentary bots you just turn on and leave be. I do so for the ceiling and floors after identifying the correct fluids to put in each of them. There's a sweet fruity spray that looks like a degreaser. I use it to clean the countertops, and the kitchen is soon shining to the page stand that had been drummed into me. Not satisfied with anything less than perfection, I give every part of the kitchen extra elbow grease powered attention. Reaching the island unit, I study the mess that drowns it with scrutiny. I'd be in for it if I discarded something important, The junk is thrown off my cleansing right. It must be tackled. I opt for sorting through it as best I can and leaving piles on the storage dining table. Parcels get dusted off and then stacked neatly. There are some tools, screwdrivers and small wrenches that line up next to one another, unsure what they are for but easy to spot. Oddly, there are a few letters in the mix. They're unopened, but from the envelopes alone I can tell they come from many different systems. Maybe letters of gratitude? Perhaps love letters from pioneer hero worshippers? Slowing down as I stack them up, I consider this. Calbex is a handsome wolf. Hell, even wasn't my assigned knight, yet still choose him out of a lineup. Before the accident, he was practically the poster boy for the KAU in this sector. It wouldn't be surprising if he garnered quite a few fanciers. Having partners wasn't restricted by the KAU. Maybe he even has one or more suitors in the den. What if anyone would be visiting here? I frowned slightly as I put the last letter into the pile. I feel a slight twist in my stomach, but I'm not sure why. Calbex is entitled to do whatever he feels like. Maybe it's the feeling, even after just a few days, that this is a private zone just for a knight and his squire. Me to serve and learn, and him to unwind. Is that selfish? Feels more complicated, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Hearing the door open, I hasten away from the table and go to check on the meal. Lifting the lid, the steam that billows out encompasses my face. The twisting in my belly is most definitely hunger-related now. I start gathering up bowls to serve in and then make sure to set up Calbex's spot by the doors. As he enters, he looks around. His expressions are hard to read again. I see his eyes dart over the counters, the table stacked with organised mess, and the meal waiting for him. Corwan, you cleaned and cooked. He walks over and then wavers next to the chair before sitting down. I bring him over a glass of water and cutlery and then wait expectantly. He looks at me. I recall this morning and hasten to bring my own bowl over and take a seat. He hasn't taken a bite yet. As I sit and wait, I wonder if perhaps there was some protocol I missed. Calbex, can I get you anything else? As I ask, he looks up at me somewhat startled. He then looks back down to the bowl before shaking his head and picking up a spoon. No, I just haven't had this meal in a long time. Thank you. He takes a spoonful and chews it slowly. I wait until he swallows and nods. That is good, truly. I smile and exhale before taking a taste myself. The sauce had thickened and picked up a slight blue hue that clung to the braised meat and tender veg. The smell elicits a deeply scented feeling of woodland walks, nostalgic happiness from some distantly forgotten memory that I can't place. The taste is even better. I may have found my new favourite meal. I let the sauce stick to my tongue as I enjoy another spoonful. Calbex watches me between bites with a bittersweet expression. Eventually he takes a drink and then clears his throat. So, how was your day? I try to speak, but have to stop and finish swallowing first as I choke in my haste. Grabbing my own glass, I take a gulp. It was great. We had Knight Cyrox teaching. He liked my marksmanship and coordination. I think some others had great skills, but I still made a better show of myself today. The simulated plague were intense and moved so precisely. It's hard to get them off guard enough to take them down. I need to try some of the other firearms, though. I did choose a safer option. Calbex listens and nods as he eats. That's good. It's fine to stick to what you know at first. Stop in advance before they can get close is the best tactic, and taking time to learn is what you're here for. Being adaptable and predictable with how you attack will ensure the best chance of survival. Try the Nighthawk next time if you get the choice. It's harder to control, but if you get used to it, you'll have a lot of options in a skirmish. I listen intently to his advice. Never heard of that firearm before, but I could look it up later. It's mostly spoken in one instance as well. Oh, thanks, I will. How about you? How's your day? Calbex sighs as he looks outside. The sun is starting to set over the distant buildings. Tactical briefing, latest sightings, predictions. Then training, more meetings, ship improvements, team compositions. Honestly, I'd have preferred your day. His mouth turns up with a hint of a smile as he polishes off the bowl. I feel a surge of accomplishment swell in me. This is nice. It feels good to fulfill my duties well, and the conversation's going smoother. Maybe we are finally getting used to each other. Content, I work on my own bowl, enjoying the comfortable silence. In fact, I think I could do with another bowl. He rises to make for the kitchen, empty bowl in hand, but also leap up to intercept him and reach for his bowl. Oh, let me. I should be the one who... The ball slips from my grasp and shatters on the ground, fragmenting into innumerable pieces. The remaining broth leaves a sad puddle. Calvex looks shocked for a moment before he kneels and then starts picking up the pieces. I try to do the same, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. Oh shit, I'm so sorry. Let me get this. It's my fault. I can do it myself. I don't need you. Calvex bellows. I withdraw from him instinctively. He looks at me with anger, then shock. He stands, gives me another look, then hurries out of the room. Between my thundering heartbeats, I can hear him ascending the stairs and then entering his room. What was that? Did I mess up? The situation flipped so fast I don't fully know what happened. I realize I'm clutching a piece of the bowl so tightly it slides into my palm. It doesn't hurt. Rather, not as much as my heart does now. What had I done wrong? Does he really hate being waited on so badly? I pick up the remaining pieces, then move to throw them out. Calvex's angry face flashes through my head again and again. The sun is setting. Shadows creep around the edges of the room. I take deep breaths to fight against the tears welling up. Even alone, I don't want to start crying. Not now. Not again. I clench my hand closed and focus on the sting of the cut. It's just pain. It will fade. It will fade. Breathe. I hold it in till the feeling subsides and I finish throwing the piece of the bowl. I don't have the energy to clean anything else. Seeing Calvex's flask on the counter, I have an impulse to throw it. As I grab it, I know I won't. I rinse it out and then refill it as he'd shown me just hours ago, back when I thought things were starting to change. I head upstairs and then to bed, all triumph from the day dash with the echoing shatter of the bowl. What's going on with Calvex there? Maybe we'll find out in the distant future. But that was episode 3 of Finite Space. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm definitely enjoying it. We have one more build and we reach the current to be continued, but they are working hard on the build after that, so I'm not quite sure when we'll have that one, but hopefully I can bring it right away when it comes out for the public. We'll see on that one. I'm not quite sure what the plans are, but we'll look into that and see what happens. And yes, we will be off to a different place to do some training and a little shopping maybe in the next episode. Speaking of next episodes, the next VN, who's going to be next weekend, will be in Nevin. And I have more Yalmach Chronicles coming up maybe in the week, maybe just after Nevin. I still have to see how things are going with that. And then after Nevin we go back into After Years. That's the next one, and at some point soon I'll probably wrap up Journal. I only have one more video to make on it. It's on hiatus right now, so I'll go through and show you a few different things in that. We won't follow the same sort of route we were doing. We haven't hidden a route in that yet, so we'll see a bit more there. And probably early July, maybe we'll have more Finite Space and get caught up with Calvex and the rest of them. And so as before I go, I'd like to say thank you to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are so appreciated. And my top patrons are Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Bieker, Brian Hall, Cobus Visser, Dissonance, Exact, Grizz, Harvest Mouse Productions, Eda Corval, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, Manuel Cervantes, Mohamed Al-Zamel, Omar, Rafu, Spiderling, Samuto, Tiger Cub, Nara Amaterasu. So special thanks to you all. And oh yes, we will be doing a live stream at some point of Monster Camp. That will be myself, the Amazing Fallen Wolf, definitely, and a few other people we want to bring in for that. I'm not quite sure when that will be. We're working on it right now, but something else to look forward to, which will be some random time, which I'll warn you about. But that's it for Finite Space for now. Until the next episode, thanks for watching. Bye for now.